for a couple of different large companies. And by night, I rebuild and restore old motorcycles. My appearance is all driven by IT work. It's endless and hours and hours and hours of stuff. It just handles it really well. Um, as far as everything else, I went through life not being really taught about money. And so you get credit, you blow credit, you mess up credit, you do a lot of, dumb decisions down the road. And then, you know, I've tried over the last 2 years, really going back and looking at different systems, different websites, different, I don't know, everything from an Excel spreadsheet to bill paying systems to systems built into the bank's websites. And everything seemed to be geared towards kind of helping, but not really solving the problem. And occasionally I would do a side contract to help build a website or fix someone's existing website. And we're talking like billion-dollar companies. So I used to be, one of those guys flown all over the world to train people in the software. So I didn't have a lot of time because I'm quite busy, quite active. And in that, I wanted a solution that automated, some of what I do. And everything out there seemed to be like a bill payer system. They would write a check, stick it in the mail it to your liability credit card company, whoever. And eventually that person would get a check. It wasn't a cashier's check typically, unless you forced it. And then, they would cash it, and it would take 10 days to get everything round tripped. And by that's done, you already got a late payment, another fee, And if your minimum payment was $40, but your minimum payment or your late fee was 35, now you just lost half your, double your money, right? And I started seeing ads for Get Sequence, and I was like, okay, well, I'll try it. And the magic is that it wasn't just automation, but it let me sort of figure out how to prepay some of my bills ahead of time. And I don't mean send the money to the liability, but really put it into a pods. And a pod inside, Sequence is basically, it's got an account and a routing number. So the beauty of it was letting me go in and stuff money in there per paycheck. In my case, I would get, say, 2 different checks a month, but your due dates, they're set in stone to a degree, except for I did find a couple of credit card companies that bill 13 times a year instead of 12. So their date always shifted by 4 or 5 days. And so no matter what you did for the bill payer systems or your scheduling payments or whatever, there was always someone that got missed, always someone that got messed up. And it wasn't that I didn't have the income. It was literally just me, my ADHD, trying to focus on getting the right payment to the right vendor in the time it took to get there. And I always thought, with this day and age of the internet and AI and connected services, why is this so complicated? And Sequence just solved it. But I had a lot of trepidation in the beginning, so I wanted to test it out first. I didn't want to put all my money into it right away. Because you never know, anybody playing with your money, it could be a situation, right? You have, say 2 incomes. It could be you and your wife. Goes to what I call a financial router, but it could be anything. It's just a pod. And it's got a rule set on it so that basically no funds transfer until, both of these deposits come in. Because I didn't want one deposit coming in after the other, timely wise. This is my initial one just to get ahead of the game. And in 3 months of using it, now I have savings, I have an emergency fund, all my bills are paid pretty much the beginning of the month. And what's left goes to my bank account and my checking. So that means that money is basically free to use for groceries or, I want to go get a new thing, or a bike part or something. And in Sequence, you have the ability of having pods, and then you have some directly connected accounts. They could be certain credit cards or loans, investment accounts, stuff like that. And then I have my personal checking and stuff tied in over here with an e-fund. Now the e-fund I set up as a pod that's different than my bank, because my thought was, what if the bank has a problem? What if the bank has, closes or something weird, crazy happens this year? So I wanted to have a little bit of money somewhere else that wasn't just, inside my credit union. So that's why I left a pod over here. The other benefit is this becomes its own buffer. So if I need to go in and, add some money to a bill to pay it ahead, or I want to pay 2 payments on a loan, if I've got it in my fund, I could use it for that. And one of the future things I plan to do is have another pod that's set up as an investment account. And I'll send, 5% or $100, a week, a paycheck or something into that. And then as that builds up, I can push that into investments, whether it's, Bitcoin or it's, 401k or whatever I want to tie it to. just because it would be just a nice thing to do once all the bills are paid. And so my thought was, I need to get paid first. And I never got paid first. I always paid everybody else first. And if I happen to have something left over, great. So I send $100, but limited to $200 a month to my savings account. And that's just because I worked hard. You know, I can afford $100 and it's not going to hurt all the bills. Just nice to have. And then, you know, we're starting to pay the bills. So I send 55 to insurance, limit 55 a month. And the reason I limit it is, you know, I get paid twice a month. I don't want to pay my insurance twice a month. That just gives them free money, right? So you can do a limit, and the way the limit works is it keeps that from happening. So the first time it goes in, it sees it's been paid, and it won't do it the second time. So it would skip that rule on the second, deposit coming in. Same thing, except for in the car, my car is $1,100 a month. So I'm going to split that between my paychecks. So $550 comes off the first part of the month, and the second part of the month, when that deposit comes in, another $550 comes out. It's going to pull in from what I have. So at the end in that process, it's just perfect. So every month, I'm going to put the money in that's going to cover the minimum and maybe a little extra, maybe a percentage extra. And down here, you'll see I have a couple of those set up as well. Go down here. Oh, I thought I had a percentage one. There it is. Yeah, 2% goes to my student loan. So after these bills are paid, because they're paid in order, one of the nice things is that's really powerful with Sequence is you can grab and change the order of things. You want something to come out first before something else, you can just shift it around by grabbing the number and dragging it where you want it to be. In this, you know, you have the ability of paying one thing first versus something else. And as long as your rules and your limits are set, and you can do things like top up an account or pay off a minimum credit card, things like that. Matter of fact, I've got one down here. You can do a fixed amount. You can also do a remainder. You can top up. You can round it down. There's a lot of powerful rules that they're always developing inside the system to let you go in and sort of either pay a card ahead or, you know, top it off with, you know, pay my minimum plus 10%. You can do fun rules like that. And so you're not just paying minimums anymore. You're paying a little extra, which actually works really well to help build your credit because you're paying it early. You're not getting late fees, and you're able to put even a little extra percentage on it if you have the funds available. Now, not all of us have funds available, and I understand that. But I went from, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, making good money, but, you know, wondering where all the money was going. And before Sequence, you know, I was running spreadsheets and looking at all the data, and I was realizing I was spending nearly $1,000 a month in just fees, just because my ADHD would kick in and I'd be working 2 shifts and I couldn't get online at the right time to get some money transferred somewhere, or a bill paid, or the money wasn't in the right account. It was in my savings, not my checking. Well, the transfer from savings to checking, they charged me a fee. So I started realizing the game, right? And Sequence helped me turn it around. And so now by prepaying my pods out of the checks, or the larger ones like rent in your car, paid out of 2 checks over, you know, say 2 deposits a month, suddenly over time, I have a little buffer and I have that flexibility that I need because what's left is mine. So one of the last things I do, I moved that one down earlier, sorry about that. I do a 6% of what's left after the bills are paid to my emergency fund. And I kind of see that as like my own little 401k minus the market. So if the market goes up and down, I still have my e-fund, right? And my plan is to build that up to about $2,000. And so I want to do 6%, but no more than $500 as a limit, just because I don't want to have nothing end up in my bank account in case the numbers shift or my contract work changes. And then last of that, I throw in the whatever's left. That always goes out to my personal checking account. So if I pick, say, a cell phone, I can see when an amount came in, where it went to, how it got handled. But, you know, even using Mint or Credit Sesame or all these other places, Monarch Money, all these things give you a transactional list of some of your accounts, and you can add others manually. But it doesn't visualize your money. I've got over 1,000 in my savings now, and I've never had that. You know, it's always been paycheck to paycheck. I lowered my entire debt by 5%, raised my credit score 35 points in the last 3 months, just paying off early or paying things early. And I paid off 5 liabilities because I could stay on top of it and pay them down a little extra. You know, at the end of the payroll run, if I had a little bit extra in my pod, I could elect, throw that in my savings, throw that in my e-fund, or pay off a card early. So, you know, it's just nice to have that. And at the end of the day, ports are your income. you know, whether it's for deposit or your own, you know, income coming from another source. Accounts are stuff that you can automatically tie in, like a student loan or credit card. Liabilities. And then pods can be set up so that the, you know, the auto pays coming from the credit cards are automatically there, tied to them.